All right. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Entering the Creative Unknown. And I am so excited to have my friend, and I'm not even going to say because when you guys see this artwork, you're going to feel like you've been transported. Krisztina Lazar is joining me, and I'm going to read her artist statement. And right up front, I'm going to say that my mouth has had a difficult time with words today. So, we're just going to get through this because she has a very impressive resume here. So, Krisztina Lazar is a painter of imaginary realism. She's a Mische technique lineage holder, a mixture of oil and egg tempera painting revolutionized by modern master Ernst Fuchs. This technique creates an opalescent underpainting that the colors are then glazed over, rendering each painting out of light rather than shadow, bringing the images to life with fractal clarity. Her current body of work, Motherhood of Metal, explores the alchemically transformative elements of having a child. From the Negredo of total dissolution, the albedo of Madonna-esque bliss, to the rubedo of integration and wholeness. Using both a miche of oil and egg tempera and direct alla prima techniques to render hyperrealistic sacred art, Krisztina creates figurative and portrait paintings that exist in the vesica piscis of fantasy and visionary painting. Krisztina completed her BFA at Carnegie Mellon University in 2004 and her MFA graduate degree in 2011 at the San Francisco Institute New Genres Department. Her paintings have been exhibited in group and solo shows throughout the United States and Europe, most notably at the H.R. Geiger Museum in Gera, Switzerland. She teaches her unique styles of painting to many students in group and private settings. Her work has been featured in multiple articles, galleries, and book publications, and she currently lives and works in Northern California. And I have been so blessed to be able to be facilitated by you and to get connected with your work through that facilitation. And welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Yes.
So when I was looking through, so sometimes I have some really strange associations. And when I was looking through your work before this podcast, I was thinking about there's this myth that when light beings were first on the earth, that there was no language. And when they heard the vibration of things that were around, like whatever this plant, whatever their vibration was, is that the language came to them, through Sanskrit or probably something more ancient than Sanskrit. And that was the word that was created through these vibrations. And there's something about that that came to my mind when I was looking through your work that it's like you are bringing something to life that's both ancient and really futuristic at the same time. And it's sort of like the completion of a circle, right? Like there's this like coming back to the reality of things,
Yeah.
even though it's such a surrealistic technique that you're doing. So I'd like to know,
Love that.
first of all, and this is always my first question, and I have a feeling that um, I think I've heard you say this before, but when was your creative life birthed?
Oh man. Um, I started drawing the moment I could hold a pencil. Um, so like very, very little. And I've kind of always, drawn really and drawn and just made art. Like it's one of those things like I tried to stop at one point and I got incredibly ill. And so I can't not do it. It's a disease. But the first thing I drew when I was little were bird people. And so I've just always been, yeah, I've just always kind of brought from that place,
Do you feel
like
like your work has always been like the expression of myths inside of you?
yeah, yeah, 100%. That's what I mean. Like from the very beginning, I have some of these drawings from when I was like 5, 6, years old, like real early. And it's on the like to-do list, the short to-do list to like paint them now because it's like snake bird in the air with, queen bird person in the body. I mean, they're just like whatever was going on there. I just have my finger in that socket from, day one. And I've
Oh,
had visionary experiences from, the time I was very, very small as well. So like yeah, I just see the world from that perspective. Uh, I can't help but see the world from that perspective, I think is the
yeah.
truth.
I mean, and that's your
Yeah.
purpose. That's your purpose. So that's the kind of
Yeah.
storyteller that you are. And you have this imprint that is, but I love that you are like really open about the fact that this is like who you are as a person, because I think a lot of people try to separate themselves from their artwork. And I do, that's what I love about being in community with you, is that I do feel like you are who you are. And you're out there, but to me out there isn't really out there. Out there is the normal part, and all of this stuff that we're trying to do is the the abnormal part.
Yeah. Right.
I was having a
Yeah.
conversation with somebody the other day and I was like, God, can you even imagine walking on this planet when it was just like a planet?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So you're
I
you're
love like history and like early humanity, Neanderthals to like, the pre-humanity humans, I just that kind of thing like is so interesting and fascinating to me because exactly for that reason. Like I just love thinking about like what was that like, like what was it like to just be, yeah, just to like actually be in touch with things the way we're supposed to be and the way we are, that we cut off, we like on purpose learn to sever these things, and many of us have to relearn to put them back on. And just to like, I wish I could say my whole life I've been just, I've just been able to do my thing. I have worked in corporate, like
oh yeah.
and like I always think it's funny because like I really thought that I was like, oh, this is my work persona and then I have my art persona, like I have to, and when I loved my job. Actually, I worked for a whiskey company, a very well known whiskey company, and it was just, I was like a whiskey ambassador for, and talking about alchemy and like spirits and stuff, like to regular folks. And like, when I left, they gave me this like parting gift that was like me riding a unicorn, holding my parrot with like dinosaurs. I was like, oh, like I thought I was like doing such a good job of keeping like the
Yeah.
weird me. Like, no, they saw me. It's just funny because it's like I had this very fantasy of like I've got my work me on.
Right.
Like
Like,
I'm good.
yeah, I'm wearing my
No,
pencil skirt.
I'm doing my thing, So it's just, yeah, like I love that you say that because I think it's true. It's one of those things I've like, that was the moment I learned that it's like, oh, I'm just me. I'm just me.
Well, and thank God you are. So I have a question. There's something that I usually ask artists, and I had to think about it differently because I know I can see just from like your recent. So if you go to your website, it says recent work, and there's like 4,000 paintings on there.
Yeah,
So
well,
I know that
it's a
I know that
growing
you're
recent.
but you are very prolific in your work. And
Yeah.
when you are the type of person that you are, that is like flooded from childhood by myth, by images, there's a different kind of process that you have to do. It's not the same of going in and like, okay, where
Hmm.
is my inspiration? What am I going to do? It's like, how am I going to actually like, okay, I need to focus on something,
Yeah.
and I need to get a little bit grounded here because your work is so beautiful, and it also puts you in a completely different zone. I mean, you can
Yeah.
really get lost for a long time. So how I want to hear a little bit about the ritual of your process and how you stay grounded throughout your process.
Yeah. Good question. Okay. So my paintings take a really long time to make. And so that's part of the filtration process is like, what is in there that's the most urgent, the most relenting that I have to make, and because there's a lot in there, right? There's a lot of stuff happening and moving through and themes and like big images and things. And so I kind of, the sometimes I get images that are like, real visions where, I kind of just black out and I have a vision of a thing. And so that feels fairly important to, kind of create usually. And so a lot of those things are like that. And a lot of them are also, like I said, these kind of upwellings of ideas that are relentless, that just won't let me go. And sometimes it even takes me years to even start the painting that I have in mind. So if it lasts that long, then it's the one that needs to get done, and so because I can work anywhere. Like if I have deadline, because I also am a working artist, right? So it's like I have shows, I have deadlines, people commission me for things, like so there's interruptions to some of these things that so paintings can take months to years to complete. And um, yeah. So the big pieces, the things that are on there often come from there. And then of course there's some in between where they're still very, they're from the place, they're from the imaginal, they're from the visionary, but they're I can get them done faster because like I have a show and it has a theme, and you know what I mean? So there's like different, yeah, like scales there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
grounding is something I feel like, God, for the first, like 30 years of my life, like was just a constant um issue, and because like uh yeah, I was just tethered very loosely to kind of the center of the earth. And I think the thing that grounded me was just being pregnant, and having a child. Like just being pregnant was the most in my body I have ever felt. And yeah, it really just kind of was like thunk. And
Right.
like,
You don't really have a choice. Like you have to be inwards
yeah, and
100%.
it was amazing. I was like, oh man, this is great.
Yeah,
Because it
it's
was
like
so new.
earthing. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So when you have a vision, when a vision comes to you, what is your, so like if it takes, you have a vision that comes to you, takes 3 years to do the painting. How do you cultivate like a deeper relationship with the images? And how, I mean, do you tend to kind of, and how also do you cut the cord with your images as well?
Yeah. So I think like um yeah, I kind of go through different, some of these things require different things, right? So it's not like there's like a
A
total,
formula. Yeah.
yeah, formula for everything, but roughly speaking, like I do a lot with hypnagogia and hypnopompia. So that's the space, one is before you wake up and one is before you fall asleep. And so it's the kind of classic, if anyone's ever heard of like Dolly used to sit there and like in his chair holding a ball and he'd like fall asleep for his nap. But he'd start, that moment as you're starting to fall asleep is extremely visionary. And if you cultivate that space and sit there, I have a long time meditation practice, so it's very similar. If you sit there in that space, all of this amazing unconscious dream content starts coming up and you're awake enough to see it and manipulate it and work with it and do stuff there. So that's a big one where I can like work out. I don't sketch much, but I do a lot of this kind of work where I work on the painting in that way and work on the image. um, and yeah, like how do I cut the cord? I'm definitely like once I'm done with a painting, I'm done with a painting. Like I it's not necessarily for me what's that famous quote, once the painting is sold, it's done. Although that has happened before. But where I'm like, it's not done, but someone bought it. Fine.
Yeah, it's done.
Done enough. And so for me, I definitely feel like the birthing of it and the creation of it, and then it is done, and then it sits around, it has its own life, it has a life after that, and that's not I'm, then midwifing something that happens. It's like a completion. And then the painting as an object can go to shows, gets bought, move around, do stuff, So
Yeah,
yeah,
gosh.
it's very much like a upwelling. I do it and then, you know, we're on to the next thing. We're good.
Yeah, are you relieved when it's over, or do you grieve?
I, I love it. I love the whole process, and it's so nice to be done with something. I don't know if it's a relief, but it's like I'm always, because there's a lot of other things, like waiting. So it's kind of like,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
I can do
Now,
the next.
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to start sharing your work, and I did pull some
Okay.
other paintings. So
Yeah.
let's see here. Okay, so I wanted to start with this just because, well, first of
Good one
all,
to
I
start
love
with.
it. I love it. And I have this, so I have some of your postcards and I look at this every single day. And I just love it so much. There's so much shedding in here. It's
Mm,
insane. So I'd like you to just speak a little bit about this piece. And I'm
man.
just going to sit
Yeah.
here with my mouth open.
Thank you. Oh God, this piece. So this I painted. Man, this is a really intense, obviously, as you can tell, moment in my life where I was really suffering. I It was kind of right before I found out I had celiac disease, and I had been really, really ill for over a decade by that point. And so I had fibromyalgia. I was having vision problems, sleep problems. Like I was a mess. I would just faint randomly. Like it was really, really bad. Um, and I was like, what is going on? And I was also very much, I had a very large meditation practice at the time. I was doing Shambhala meditation. Um, and yeah, yeah, I really needed to kind of burn the old self. Oh, also, I was applying for graduate school and I was, like looking at moving to a different state. I was about to go to this, actually showed in an exhibition in Gruyere at the H.R. Giger Museum. So it was kind of painted just before like this whole other thing kind of with my artwork. Anyway, so it was just this like really insane time period. And yeah, my grandmother was dying. Anyway, yeah, there was just a lot going on. So yeah, so the bottom, this was, and I painted this in a really interesting way. So like you can't really tell by looking at it, but it was more that maybe you can a little, but like the process of it was the important part of like how to build up these bodies. And so I literally painted the skeletons, because I'll get into this, I'm sure, like the Mische technique that you spoke about in my artist statement, is a very layered process. And it's so I was able to like paint the skeleton of each of these figures and then layer on the many, like the tendons, the veins, the muscles, the fascia, then the skin. So it's really, and I painted them like the obviously the me at the bottom is getting burned and then the me at the top is born from there. And so the actual way I painted it mimics that dissolution and rebuilding process. And then she at the top has the crown of white Tara. Um, and like my hair is the white Tara crown, basically. Yeah. So it's kind of the ultimate phoenix. I've just had that kind of life where I've had to burn and reinvent myself several times. So it's a theme that yeah, this painting to me is still extremely fresh in that way as a theme.
Yeah, I feel this like as you're talking, like I mean, as I'm watching this paint or looking at this painting and I'm hearing you speak, Like my breath actually feels a little bit shallow, like I can feel it in my stomach, and I
Yeah.
think that's because this is so relatable. And
Mm,
even the idea of all of the layers of going from skeleton to skin is just,
yeah.
it's like you have to,
Yep.
is kind of what you have to. There is really no other choice than to get right down to the bones of it. You have to. And what I love about this is, well, I'm gonna like reveal a little secret to everybody. And some people who are close to me might know this about me. But when I was young, I used to light like really big trash dumpsters on fire, like at a really young age. And
That's
I
amazing.
was going through some stuff, but it was like fire for me has always been so, like, it's such an
Yeah.
important factor. And I really do feel like it's like witchy women, we really do relate to the Phoenix all the time,
Yeah.
either in like an eye roll way or a real like embodied way, depending on, who we're talking to. But what I love,
Yep.
what I'm really drawn to in this is the fact that I don't know if your arms are behind your wings. I don't think you have arms.
No, the arms are the wings.
Yeah, and there's something
Yeah.
about that, like you can't really grasp for old stuff anymore. You can't
Mm-hmm.
actually reach for it. It's not no longer an option. And I
Yeah.
love that. Like even if you went down and tried to grab your old self, you couldn't.
Feathers.
Yeah, it would just be like
Flop,
it would be
flop.
very frustrating.
Yeah.
You'd be pissed. But
Yeah,
so
can't
I,
do
I
it.
really like that. I love that aspect of like there's no other choice. And every
Mm-hmm.
decision in this painting feels like there's no other choice. This is just it's what to happen.
Yep.
So beautiful. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay. So I chose this just because you have to. This is just so important. And I'd like to speak a little bit about, now I don't know. I'm assuming that were you diagnosed with celiac before you got pregnant?
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Okay.
diagnosed a long time ago.
Yeah. So when you have had, it's really interesting just for, I have an autoimmune situation too. And there's something about it that's like you, I loved this because you're so in your body.
Mm.
And, when you have a lot of physical stuff happening all the time, you disassociate from your body all the
Yeah.
time without even realizing because you have to get up in the morning, you have to go to this place, you have to kind of just contain yourself. And you can't contain yourself when you are pregnant. So, you don't have any choices, it's just happening. So, I'd like to speak a little bit about this piece of artwork and how this like transformed everything for you, because I know that it did.
Yeah. 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 So I've like just to speak to what you said, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia when I was 18. And um and I also have Hashimoto's, around the same, like diagnosed at the same time. So like, yeah, multiple autoimmune stuff. And so, yeah, 100%. It's, the pain, from, all sorts of different things. It's like, I don't want to be in there, and for a
And
long time
also
I
by
didn't.
judgment as well. People judging you for always
Yeah.
not feeling
There's,
good, always being sick. Yeah.
yeah, there's just a lot. Yeah, there's a lot there, right? So anybody suffering with that stuff, like, it's a journey. And so I don't even know how I got this idea. I think probably because like at the time Instagram was showing me like all these like body transformation videos, and I was like, oh, I can make that a painting. And so from like the first month I was pregnant, I painted each, like I was, each one of those is a month of pregnancy, more or less, and it's not exact, but like, um, and like each one, there is some amount of see-throughness from the first one to the last one, but it was really like it was literally a process painting. So I would sit there and mirror gaze, like I would sit with the canvas in front of me and look in the mirror and paint myself that way. I never do that. I always work from photographs, and because I'm painting at all hours, and like painting, at the same time every day is just not feasible. And the light isn't that good at midnight. And so, this was like, daytime mirror was very, very visceral just to even get this painting done. And so it was really just that kind of, as my belly grew, as like my different facial expressions, like none of that was like premeditated. It was just kind of like how it worked. And then so once the little guy was born, I added kind of the rest, and like the planets are in the Chaldean order. So just kind of as the little spirit comes down from the ethers to the earth, like, he brings each person, like, adopts these planetary influences as they go down through the spheres. It's kind of how the Greeks thought about it. And that's your birth chart essentially. And so it's kind of that process of coming out of the womb. And his name is Hawk, so that's why there's a little hawk there. And so coming out of the womb, and then kind of birthing from the stars into our plane of existence. Yeah.
There's something wonderful about this when I'm looking at it, and you just said that there's a little hawk because your son's name is Hawk. But there's this feeling to me when I look at the bird of it being like an angel of like a maiden angel,
I love that. Yeah.
because that's over now. It's like you really
Yeah.
lose that piece of yourself. And there's something, I
I
think,
love that.
especially
Yeah.
going from the painting that we just looked at with the white wings and then just seeing this, it's so lovely. Okay, I'm going
Thank
to move
you.
on. Oh my gosh, everyone, I can't take it. I really can't. Oh,
That's fun.
okay, talk about this. And I'm again mouth
I
open.
just, so I just, yeah, like mythology, like my dad used to tell me mythologies when I was like as bedtime stories. So they've just been embedded in my mind since I could, they were always so important to me. And I just, like I'm also of the thing that like mythology as they stand is very important because they have so many things, but those images and those figures and those creatures really are a part of our lives today. And so I think, like, it's not rewriting them, it's adding to them when we think about them as how they constellate for us. And so this is Echidna, who is she is one of the kind of earliest goddesses in kind of the Greek pantheon, before Zeus, before kind of everybody that everybody knows. Echidna and Typhon were, these chthonic beings of the world, of heavens, the earth, and the underworld. And so she was a giant snake lady, basically. And so she's also the mother of all of the monsters that any of the Greek heroes deal with. So in this image, it's the Hydra's in the back holding her tail, and then the Chimera is on the left front. The Sphinx is they're having a little fight there, and then Cerberus is hanging from the branch. So I just, as the mother of a toddler who is a tiny little monster, he's awesome, but he's a monster, in every way, shape, or form. And so I just, I was like, well, like they were babies too, those monsters. And I'm always, since I was little, I've always been on Teen Monster, I'm like, did anyone ask why the Hydra was pissed off? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's where my head goes. And so
100%. Yeah.
right. And so I just, like the Hydra is like really shy, and he's always hiding behind his mama. And then, Chimera and Sphinx are always at it. Cerberus is just climbing the walls, and there's like four other monsters that are not pictured, and Echidna is just having a moment, she's like, oh my God, when is it wine time?
Yeah, exactly. She's like, oh my God,
It's too
three
early
more
for that.
hours. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah.
100%. I have so there, this really reminds me of, and I don't remember the name of the artist, but it has the vibe of the Haunted Mansion artist a bit.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I can't
Yes.
remember what his name is, but yeah, this is just so beautiful. Her tail is just incredible. And the vacancy in her, I mean, you really see it. She's over it. She is over it.
Yeah, I just imagine how loud that is in like these primordial swamps. It's like
Yeah,
her house,
they're biting her tail.
like
They're,
it's just too much. Yeah, it's like, oh, Jesus.
Okay, so now is this showing the process? Is
Yes.
this okay? So wonderful. I've never even heard of this process before, so I'm really excited to hear about it.
Yeah, so it's a funny one. So like modern master Ernst Fuchs is the if anybody out there hasn't heard of him, please look him up. He he got on this thing of trying to reinvent the Dutch Renaissance masters techniques. But and at the time there aren't very good descriptions of how some of those paintings achieved that level of kind of brilliance, right? But we know that they did some sort of egg tempera underpainting and then glazed on top of it. And so he kind of intuited this reinvention of this technique. And so my teacher, Bridget Marlin, also look her up. She studied with, or she was one of Ernst Fuchs' first students. And very early on in, kind of his teaching, he would go on to teach hundreds of people, and his technique kept evolving. And so I have colleagues and friends who paint um, different versions of this technique because they learned it from Fuchs at different times in his life, which I think is very cool. But so this particular version, he stopped teaching, and Bridget, his student, kept painting in it her whole life. And so I learned it from her. And so it's the I call it the tricolor Mische technique, because it works. So start at the top left. You do the image, you paint it red, like a real nice ochery browny red, right? And then you paint the entire image in egg tempera with highlights. No shadows, no color, no nothing. You do the entire image out of light. And the and then so you render the shadows from the variance of how bright the white is in the highlights and how absent the white is in the shadows, right? Then you do a yellow glaze, so a nice Indian yellow. I paint in oils. This is all oil. You can do it in acrylic, but we won't do that. We won't talk about that now. And then you do the same thing in white. Again, so white acrylic over top of the yellow, right? But you do it, it's like a layer cake. So every time you do the white, you do a little less. So you can see like the bottom layer. And so it's almost very sculptural in that sense. And,
Okay,
like a
yeah.
wedding cake, right? Each layer of the white is a little less than the one below it, but you build up this like beautiful kind of 3D quality. And then you
Wow.
paint it, you put a blue glaze over it. And so that's a really pale, you can use any kind of blue with a bunch of white in it. Um, and then you do the white one more time over top of, and digital photographs have a shit time of like getting the colors right. So when you see it in person, it's much different, but you can kind of get a sense. The blue glaze turns it very opalescent gray. And then once you put the white on it, it has that real kind of, it's just gorgeous. It's just stunning. It
Wow.
looks like it's been kissed by moonlight. And then you go through, I have like a series of steps for the color glazes, but basically you glaze the color on and then that's your painting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. How amazing. So all of these are mixed with the egg as well.
Yeah, so
So
I either make my own egg tempera, which isn't that hard. I just with the small person, like having pigment out and mullers and like do it.
uh,
So I don't,
yeah.
but casein, like just white casein, works really well too. It just has to be an emulsion. So like the thing is that those are water soluble, and if you're mixing, painting with oil, obviously that is not water soluble. So you have the egg tempera, either the egg tempera, which is a bit more like that. Casein also has this kind of almost chalky quality to it. So it's this real kind of, you're working with lean and fat. And so the combination of the two really, like, again, it's really hard to tell when you're looking at a digital thing. But if you see one of these paintings in person, you can see that there's like this, yeah, there's just a textural difference, of course, between the egg tempera and the oil. So it does something to the light, and it does something to your eye, and how they layer together kind of creates this weird kind of hyper reality.
This is just mind blowing. Seeing it
Right.
broken down, because
Mm-hmm.
when you are talking about it now, I'm following it, and it's just wow, incredible.
It's very labor intensive in one sense, but yeah, like I just feel, we live in such a immediacy focused world, and doing something that really takes a long time is such an antidote to that. And so I've just, I can paint in other ways, but I just find that this process, this transformation process, as the painting goes through it, just really does it for me in that way that, like, like it's a high, and then you start again. It's another high, and you start again, and then you have to rebuild up from nothing. When you first put the color on that absolutely stunning, blue and white layer, like it looks like you've just made the most exquisite jewel in the whole world, and then you put color glazes on it, and it looks like absolute garbage. You're like, I ruined my painting. This sucks. And
Yeah,
building it back up again so that it really does what it's supposed to do. It's just a metaphor for so many things we go through. And so in that way, like, I enjoy living through that process with each of my paintings, because yeah, it's so not what everyone wants us to do. And for that reason, it feels like sane.
yeah. Well, I was just thinking like techniques like this in art or in whatever it is, any kind of technique in any kind of creative form or scientific form, anything that we
Yeah.
do that takes patience and time. To me, it feels like the true gravity of the earth.
Hmm.
Like we need to keep this rhythm that's happening, that is anchored, where we're not like just floating off into outer
Yes.
space.
Yes.
So I love that. And it's very comforting to know that, I know we all have our ways of doing this, but like, for instance, I'll think about you doing this now. And to me, that feels like a pendulum on a grandfather clock.
Mm.
It's just kind of there. It's just going. I love that.
Well, and I
Okay.
think to your earlier question too, it's like, how do I stay grounded in my artwork? It's this process, like
Yeah.
if I'm kind of in the lofty, or, in some other realm with what the topic is, this process is extremely grounding.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm loving this, and I want you to tell me about this because I have some thoughts.
So yeah, like this is my most recent painting. I literally finished this a few weeks ago. And Um, golly gee. So, okay. So on in one sense, this is the Eleusinian mysteries, right? It's the most ancient mystery, or most long running kind of mysteries that we know of. And it was in the Greek world, and everyone got initiated. Everyone who wanted to could get initiated, which is part of the beauty of it. And what the actual thing was, no one really knows, but everyone has, like, we know a lot about the process. And it had something to do with the myth of Persephone being taken into the underworld, Demeter becoming bereft and stopping everything from growing, and then Persephone being persuaded to come back out of the underworld in a variety of ways. There's different versions, and then Persephone and Demeter being reunited, and everything growing again. Um, so that there's a death and rebirth process, and the very essence of the initiation and the mystery was this kind of chore, the Persephone coming back to life, right? This rebirth from the death. And so there are many, yeah, like everybody drank some sort of, something before they went into the inner sanctum before they went into the ritual of the initiation. No one knows what it was. But there is of course, if anybody is psychedelically minded, everyone is convinced that it was some sort of psychedelic uh, mixture. It might have been, who knows? There's a frieze that this is an exact image of. Um, that is in some French museum right now, of course, out of Greece. And like the both Persephone and Demeter are holding mushrooms. And so
Right. That's I would.
yeah. And so that's a big, like, oh, it must
Yeah,
be a
indicator.
psychedelic fest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think that, I just love that. I think it's really fascinating. Who knows, right? But like, so I just think the image of it was so provocative that I was like, I must paint this. And so that's me and my mom. My mother is not psychedelically minded in any way, shape, or form. I'll just say that. So it's not that part of it isn't. But so you can tell I'm Persephone. I've got the pomegranate, which is part of the myth necklace, very subtle. And yeah, so that's the base. And Eleusis, kind of the grand temple at Eleusis, is behind us in the clouds there. So that's kind of the one level of the painting. So now you see it that like where there's spiral staircases that are kind of reminiscent of DNA spirals, right? One going down, Persephone is going down, one going up, Demeter's is going up. Both of these are ways to kind of reach wisdom and quote enlightenment, as it were. One is to go under, a catabasis is to go inward and under, and then an ecstasis is to go upwards and out. And you can't do one without the other, right? I think, we are subject to a religion that is very ecstatic, right? Trying to get out of everything. And right now
Yeah.
we are suffering because there are a lot of people that are convinced that that's true, that we need to escape the world, right? But then, going too far in and too far under and only going under, only going into the depths, gets you stuck in realms that you can't really come back from either. So it's kind of saying that, and that the spiral in the middle is actually, it's a tie-dye, it's from a tie-dye t-shirt I used as my reference. So it's sunrise is the pink, and kind of eternity and space is the black, right? So it's saying that these two energies going outward and going inward must be combined, to really have true wisdom. Again, which kind of goes back to what the point of the mysteries were in the first place, I think. And so that's, and then so because it's me and my mom, the thing that's really happening here is that death and rebirth process, like from mother to daughter, like there's a transmission that happens when I then too become a mother, right? I, as a mother, have brought death into the world. I have brought a living being that is going to expire into the world, right? And that also marks the kind of, there's something that happens that when you bring life into the world, now my life is somehow marked for death. I mean, it always was, but there's this kind of very poignant feeling of like, oh, there's a turning point there, right? And there's that kind of eternal return, that spiral, that Ouroboros sort of way, not quite an Ouroboros, because it's a continuous spiral. It's evolving, but it always returns to a point, but it continues to evolve. And that kind of process of being in the process that humanity has been in since we were, amoebas. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
just, it's the great rhythm of life. And so that's the transmission. That, I think, is the mystery, for me in this painting that I'm trying to speak of. And their outfits, just to kind of, they are my homage to my two, there's a lot to choose from. Some of my two favorite, Alexander McQueen couture pieces. And the one on the right is from his show Plato's Atlantis. And the one on the left is from, oh God, what was it called? But it's something like Wild something. Everything was very based on, skins and furs and, that kind of death in that sort of way. So they relate to the themes as well.
And I'm thinking as I'm looking at this, I mean, you and your mom, you're also a little spiral there.
Yeah, exactly.
There, and
We
it's so
form a
wonderful.
lemniscate.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Yeah.
so incredible. The eyes and just holding one another as mothers, as acknowledgement of what that means, of the
Mm.
death and birth cycle. Her hands are amazing. I mean, it's just like I think about, I look at my hands and I think, ah, these are my mom's hands. Like I start to see,
Yeah.
like, but seeing
Yeah.
your mom's hands, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Like it's so
Yeah.
beautiful. And the fact that you're both holding the mushrooms in your left hand, it's like and mushrooms are such communicators.
Hmm.
It's just the whole thing is so beautiful and breathtaking, but the gaze that you two have upon one another, it's honestly bringing tears to my eyes right now. I love it.
Mm,
Love it.
thank
It's so
you.
beautiful. Oh, all right. So I did pick one more because I just had to put this out here because I just love this.
Oh man.
How can you not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, you don't
Good
need to
stuff.
talk too much about it, but it's here and I want people to see it.
Yeah,
And
well,
I would
I
like to
kind of
talk
need
about
to a
the
little
ins.
bit.
Yeah, I want to talk about the ins. Yeah, I mean, you have permission to. I'm just saying that you don't have to. Nope.
Uh,
Yeah,
man,
I'm
there's
so
so much to
interested in
say
this,
about.
in the music, like the
Yeah.
cello. Was it cello?
It's a violin, yeah, but like, okay, so there's an engraving, and I believe it's Robert Flood's alchemical text, and it's the hand of God tuning a string, and so all of the, all of kind of the reality is getting tuned, right? And so that's the God's hand. That's alchemy in a way. It's like helping that tuning process happen, and so I just adore that image. Gosh, I painted this a long time ago, so this is just fun to like, yeah, oldie but goodie. And this, okay, so I used to suffer from migraines, and so when I had a particularly bad migraine, I had this vision of this is the it's God, this creature is God, and so it's every um so like everything in this creature has been kind of God at some point, right? And so there's kind of Toltec, Olmec, Aztec inspired heads, three, of course. And the numbers of the arms are significant. Snakes and feathers and birds have all been deities. There's actually, he's wearing a necklace of the zodiac. He's both male and female. The cloven hooves, I think, are fairly obvious. Poseidon's, horse feet, and then kind of a dragon tail. And then the known universe is inside God. We've always had this really, like the way we think about the universe has always kind of been encapsulated in the divine. So yeah, that's what that is. And then it's impossible to tell, but right, the center of the painting is the heart center of the deity. And so, I mean, the center of that spiral, so that's the center of the painting, but the center of that spiral is the heart center, or concentric circles, actually. And so, in that point, I start with very basic number theory, and as the concentric circles go out, so it's like if you dropped something in water, right? It's like the ripples. So as those concentric circles go out, it gets more and more complex, kind of mathematical and physics theorems, to all the way out to the edge where it's like string theory and all sorts of other crazy stuff. And then these shapes that are being vibrated are Calabi Yau shapes. At the time, these were very kind of, like all the rage in string theory, that they were like, it was like something like an 11 the world is 11 dimensional, and these Calabi Yau shapes are like 8 dimensional or something. And so there's this shape that the strings of reality vibrate through,
Mm.
to kind of form what we see around us, right? And so but the God and the that kind of math and science are separated by a thin veil. So one, they are of the same reality, but they are not the same thing, And so it's, yeah, so it's we can perceive one through the other. And so they have a relationship, but there is something kind of essentially uh, Yeah, there's something they're essentially like different in the way that they kind of approach things. So we can get to that center point from different angles, I think is
Different
partly what it's
perspectives,
about.
yeah, angles. Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible. I'm really thinking about how water responds to music when I'm looking at
Yes.
this too.
Yep.
That's what it
Totally.
feels like. Oh, so beautiful. Okay. So I
Thanks.
think we're getting into, so this is,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about what is coming up. And I didn't even know that you actually had this little guy. So I'm really interested in this
Yeah,
whole project.
he's right here. He's been
Oh,
sitting with me
nice.
the whole time,
Oh, and he's been so quiet.
hanging
So
out.
that's so funny. He's like, is he an anchor for you?
He's my dude. Yeah, he doesn't get because of the little guy. He doesn't get a lot of like personal time. He's a
Right.
rescue, so
Right.
he's like,
Yeah.
"Mama."
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
So talk about this project that you're working on, and we'll go through the other slides, but just what are we looking at here?
yeah. So I am for the last 7 years. I have been working on my own tarot. And because of the little guy, he's a rescue, and he had a very troubled childhood. And I was doing ancestors when we first got him. We've had him about almost 11 years now. And when we first got him, I was doing a lot of ancestor work. And I was like, man, I wonder what his ancestors are like, because every parrot was kidnapped from their natural habitat. Even if you get one that's been bred locally or whatever, right? It's like they're not from here, like they're from wherever they're from. And so there's, yeah, obviously some like lineage issues, lineage trauma there. And so I really just kind of went in there, spoke with his ancestors, told them that he was safe. And it was very profound actually. And so I somehow, these things, it's so strange to say out loud. Words don't do it justice, but
Yeah.
and it makes me sound crazy, but somehow
No,
somehow
not for
I
this
was
audience. Yeah.
no, right? No, like somehow I was connected to the parrot kind of ancestral being, like the parrots, and so when I was thinking about doing because they're like, who talks to the parrot ancestors? No one. And so when I was like, I'm going to do my own tarot, like I really got this kind of clear, like, do the parrots kind of in, they've got stories. These are the voices that need to be heard. Do the parrots. And I was like, okay, and so I started doing the parrots. And so, yeah, every card, these are just the majors, just the artwork. Every card has their own parrot. Of course, there's 78 images, and so there's 78 parrots. There's so many more parrots than that, but I was able to choose parrots that had something intrinsically to do with the meaning of the card. And so whether it's what they're like, as pets, whether it's their conservation status, what habits they have in the wild, or even things like what their species is prone to do or how they're doing, and so it's both kind of like an individual view as well as this kind of bigger archetypal view of what they're like. Yes, it's been such a fascinating journey.
I feel like
um
parrots get a bad rap too. I really, really do. As like kind of like being a nuisance or, or
yeah,
being like a
often.
tricks, being kind of annoying. But
Yeah.
parrots, first of all, are extraordinary. And I don't really know a lot about the wisdom of parrots, but I just heard something recently about how parrots actually are not just mimicking humans when they speak. They actually have an understanding of
Yep.
language. They're intelligent. So I'm really interested to hear. I just want to ask you one question. What is the wisdom of parrots? What's their
Yeah.
vibe?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, they're extremely mercurial, like in that trickster sort of way. So, if they had a ruling planet, it is 100% Mercury. And but like that, they're psychopomps, so not only are they they're incredibly intelligent. Like many of them can, test into like, what a 5-year old can perform in cognitive tests and things like that. So they're extremely smart. They have an incredible emotional depth. It's because they're such social creatures. They have they relate to each other with this amazing emotion. And the fact that like a bird, can relate to us in such kind of profound ways and we can relate back. In the one way we could not be more different. Like we're literally, like this is my house dinosaur, and so like, but as my house dinosaur, we have an incredible relationship. Anybody that has a parrot as a companion can attest to that. And so they're, in a way, because of that capacity they have to lead us into lands of the unknown, emotionally and mentally too, if we let them. Um, you know, I think of it as like it's like the language of the birds, right? It's like in a way that's like it's magic. It's the highest form of magic to understand the speech of animals. And parrots are these incredible kind of beings that lead us to that place where we can understand more about something that in many ways cannot be more different than us, and yet
Wow.
they're so similar.
These are just beautiful cards. So tell me
Right?
about these three, or what this like. I know those were the major arcana, and these are just
Yeah. So it's just examples of so the four suites are suits are suites are it's eggs for cups,
okay.
sticks for wands, fruit for discs, and feathers for swords.
Okay.
And so I
Wait, was
really
fruits
tried,
pentacles?
yeah.
Okay.
And so for the eggs, I tried to make the eggs look like what the parrot eggs would be. So each one of those, so the fruit on the cards of the birds with the fruit are all fruits they eat, so it's literally their fruit. And yeah, all of these, and each of the birds has, like each of the majors has a flower or a tree or some sort of plant component, that when you look at the minor cards, the two corresponding majors have those plants on the cards. So that's how you can tell, like so like the six of eggs, it's Scorpio in the sun. And so the sun is a chrysanthemum, and the
Mm.
Scorpio is one of those corpse flowers, different kinds of corpse flowers. So they smell like rotten flesh. But
I'm
um,
so looking forward to this.
it's good. Yeah, me too.
How far
And,
along are you? How far along
very
are you?
close. I'm very close to launching the Kickstarter. I'm aiming for early June. So I'm just finishing. I've literally been working on the Kickstarter for about a year. Just a lot of writing, a lot of preparation, video work, like all that kind of good stuff. And yeah, so I think just like yeah, each of these little guys. So the Queen of Eggs, we'll just do her real fast. So that's a blue fronted Amazon. They are like the queen of cups, right? Think Queen of Cups. Queen of Eggs is just, she's very in touch with her emotions. She's very, like um uh yeah, very compassionate, very sweet, very friendly, has this kind of very beautiful, like oceanic mothering sort of way, in her best qualities. And so think of like the blue fronted Amazons are just known for their sweet nature. They are, like all parrots are, I think you could probably say every parrot is naughty, in that kind of way, but they are particularly like gentle and sweet and loving. And they are one of the ones that love to sing. And so she just, the very essence of that parrot has that very essence of that card. And so she's sitting, yeah, she's sitting with her correspondences in kind of that well of beauty and emotional kind of connection. Yeah.
This has been so wonderful. And I just have to say that, to those of you who are listening to this, you can hear how rich the stories are behind Kristina's pieces. And the wonderful thing is that Krisztina also has a Substack that you just get so much. It's just such a treat to like go through your Substack and to receive like this gift and go through it is just so wonderful. And I want you to
Mm.
talk about, before we sign off, what's coming up for you. Where can people find you? Which I'll be putting stuff in the show notes. Krisztina also teaches workshops online and in person. So wherever you are, you can tap into what she does. So I just want to give you the opportunity to say what's up.
Yeah, thank you. So, like I said, I think the big thing I'm working towards is that launch of the Kickstarter. And so, if you sign up for my Substack or you're go to my Instagram, I will, that will be all over the place for the entirety of that campaign. So that's exciting. If you're local to the Bay Area, I teach a monthly class in Berkeley. That is it's called Alligator Lizards at the Berkeley Alembic, and it's all about connecting to unconscious dream and visionary and psychedelic and meditation material, and coming into dialogue with all of that imagery and content. And so I'm doing that currently also with you and Dream Studio, which is part of this Jungian Life Stream School. And yeah, so I am deep in kind of a year-long mentorship program. I'm teaching with some students. I teach privately also. If you're interested in learning more about the Mische technique and want to take private lessons, I do that as well online. Yeah, so those are the main things that are happening.
Great. Okay. So, everybody, the world needs the divine feminine right now, and the world needs women artists to be uplifted, to really impact the shape of our world and heal what's happening right now. It's really
Mm,
important that we lift up women artists. That's part of why I'm doing this podcast, because it is going to be women creators that save the world. That's just my personal belief system. And we are just we're so privileged to be able to sit in conversation with one another
yeah.
today. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I'll put everything in the show notes. And yeah, it's just been wonderful. Thank you so much.
This has been so beautiful. Thank you so much, too. I so appreciate you.